a good Thanksgiving?
Yeah, I did.
Yeah, looks like you had a busy time, Jermaine.
Yeah.
Great.
Ready?
Yes.
Good evening. Welcome to the November 27th regular city commission meeting. I ask that everyone either turn off their cell phone or put them on silent. We'll stand for the Pledge of Allegiance, followed by silent meditation.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Start off a couple presentations with new employee welcome and employee service awards. First, we're going to do new employee welcome, and our first person is Daniel Grijalva. Daniel was hired on June 28th, 2018 as a police officer. He graduated from help me here, Sahuarita, where's that?
In Southern Arizona.
Southern Arizona High School. He was last employed with the Kansas Department of Corrections as a corrections officer. And that, thank you very much. You can say something. Sam Zhang, who is not here, is an IT Specialist 1, started July 5th. Sam's not here. Andrew Rosenstengel is not here. He's hired as a park technician. Disregard. Ryan Wimley was hired in October as street equipment operator. Jonathan Oney was hired in October as WPC Operator 1. Brandon Mills. Brandon was hired on October 30th, 2018 as Deputy Finance Director. Brandon received his MPA from Wichita State University and previously worked for Sedgwick County as a Senior Budget Analyst. Welcome, sir. Want to say anything?
Welcome, I'm excited. This is a great opportunity. I'm excited to be back in my hometown. So thank you.
Glad to have you.
Thank you.
Garrett Nelges, hired as a park technician on November 1st. Linda Meister. Linda was hired November 8th, 2018 as a housing custodian. Linda received her GED and previously worked for the Fort Leavenworth School District as an environmental technician. Would you like to say anything?
Great to be with the city. Quite a few faces up here, so.
Thank you.
Thank you. Timothy Warner, the second, I believe. Is it the second? Tim was hired on November 8th as a solid waste collector. Tim graduated from Lafayette High School and worked production and for cereal ingredients prior to coming to the city of Leavenworth. Lafayette, Louisiana? Or Lafayette, what? St. Joe. Oh, St. Joe. Okay. Want to say it? Okay. Now we have our service awards. Start off with our 10-year awards. Russ Baker, who was absent, was hired in January as a firefighter. He was promoted to driver operator on May 8th, 2014. He was hired in 2008, and he became a driver operator in 2014, position he holds today. Shana Bargery, I pronounce it right? Come on up. Shana was, come on in. Shana was hired in August of 2008 as a telecommunications specialist. She transferred to the evidence custodian position in February 2011, transferred back to telecommunications specialist position in July 2017, the position she holds today. Congratulations. Thank you, Marcena. Okay. Manuel Carrera was not here. He's hired in 2008 as a WPC lab technician. David Griffith is not here. He's hired in 2008 as GIS technician. Mike Hooper. Mr. Hooper. You want to be here 10 years? Mike was hired on May 12, 2008 as the Public Works Project Manager. He was promoted to Deputy Director of Public Works in 2015, the position he holds today. What would you like to say?
Just thanks for the opportunity to be here and your support.
Thank you for your good work.
Leona Housel. Leona was hired in March of 2008 as a police officer. She earned her reclassification to Police Officer 1 in March of 2013, received her reclassification to Police Officer 2 in March of 2015. She transferred within the department to the Evidence Custodian Crime Analyst position in July of 2017, the position she holds today. Congratulations. Would you like to say anything? Okay. Thank you. We have John Logan, who is not here. He's hired in 2008 as solid waste collector, and he's now solid waste equipment operator 2, which he was promoted to in 2016. Melvin Sewell III. Melvin was hired in January 2008 as solid waste collector and is promoted to solid waste equipment operator in July of 2017, position he still holds today. Now we have other ones for 15 years of service, 20, 30, and actually have a 35 years of service here. 15 years of service. Jeremy Bennett's fire is not here. Okay. Michael Copeland, WPC Operator 2, is not here. Danielle Herring, Police Sergeant. Awesome. Thank you. Would you like to say something? Okay. Linda Hoppy. Record Supervisor, 15 years. Congratulations. Would you like to say anything? Okay, thank you. James McGee, who is not here, is a firefighter. Now for 20 years of service. Start off with Robert Gilbert, Solid Waste Equipment Operator 2. He is not here this evening. Stephen Herring, Police Sergeant. Emergency. Sergeant Herring is not here. Brandon Pettis, Fire Captain. Not here. Kathy Rogers, Zoning and Code Administrator, is not here. And David Summerall, Summerall, the Park Foreman. We all know David. He's not here. Those are 20 years of service. Now, for 30 years of service, we've got the Snow Boss, Curtis Marks. Snow Boss is out, okay. Curtis Marks has been with us for 30 years. We got Mike McDonald, Public Works Director. Welcome, sir. Congratulations. Now you can say something.
Briefly, 30 years has gone by so very quickly, especially for someone who's only going to be here not more than 3.
Thank you. Chris Keir, Police Lieutenant, 35 years.
Oh, wow.
Who's the longest longest tenured employee in the city now? Is it you? It was Pat's Wall for ever and ever, but anybody, thank you. Anyone know if anyone has more than 35? We think this is the most senior person in the city? Well, then you have to say a lot. Go ahead, Lieutenant Keir. Thank you. go with old business. First item on the agenda is minutes for the November 13th, 2019 regular meeting, November 15th special meeting. Any additions, comments, deletions, changes? Not, I'll take a motion.
I move that we accept the minutes of November 13, 2018 regular meeting and the November 15, 2018 special meeting.
I second it.
Motion and a second to accept the minutes from November 13th and November 15th. Begin voting with Commissioner Griswold.
Aye.
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 Passes 5-0. Next item, second consideration ordinance for ordinance number 8090, rezoning West Glen Lot A. It requires a roll call vote. I will call the roll, but first we'll have any discussion or any additions, deletions?
Mr. Mayor and Commission, there are no changes from this. As a reminder, this is the small separate development of Mike Riley there off 20th Street, just south of the entrance to New Lawrence Road.
And this was necessary because of, he's planning to put villas in there as opposed to single residential homes, or?
Right, and it had to be rezoned, the property.
What's the difference with the villas? Are they connected or?
There are a couple of units that have 2 units and a
Okay.
couple that have 3 units.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? I'll call the roll. Commissioner Bowder?
Aye.
Commissioner Dedeky?
Aye.
I vote aye. Commissioner Wilson?
Aye.
Commissioner Griswold?
Aye.
Passes 5-0. Thank you. Next item is citizens' participation, part of new business. This portion of the meeting is reserved for those citizens who care to address the commission or present petitions to the clerk. And if you are here to address the commission, we ask that you address the commission on items that are not on tonight's agenda that can be addressed when we come up to those items. Anyone here care to address the commission? Seeing none, we'll move on to general items. Consider request for transient merchants license 2019 military collector show.
Our City Clerk Carla Williamson will handle this item.
Mayor and Commissioners, we received an application from Edward Trevor Brown to hold the military collector show at the Riverfront Community Center. This event has been held there for the last couple of years. This year it's going to be held on February 16th, 2019. The city ordinance does require that any transient merchant license held in or on city property must be approved by the governing body. So that's before you today. And Mr. Brown is here if you have any questions regarding the show or anything about his event.
Any questions, Commissioner?
I do, this, was this a show that your father used to put on?
Correct.
Yeah, because I think you were
I
here
was
earlier in the year.
Earlier this year,
Right.
around January, to make the same request, which
Right,
we did.
and-
So they shouldn't be lied. And so my intention is to continue with the show as long as I can.
And he was a military
He
history
taught-
instructor out
right,
there
he
at
taught at the Command General Staff College for about 35
Right.
years. He had put his retirement papers in last August,
Mm-hmm.
and he had planned to retire August of this year, but unfortunately he passed away back in January.
Well, I had him for one of my classes way back when, but I remember that, so I just wanted to ask you that question.
Any other questions from the commission?
What's the
Would you-
date of the show? You might as well tell us.
be
You're
the
on
si-
TV.
The idea is at the moment on the 16th of February, so it's
Okay.
the Saturday.
Saturday at the community center in the
Yes.
gym?
Mm-hmm.
Go ahead, Jim Mary.
There's usually a pretty good turnout.
We have a pretty good turnout, yes.
And do we do this twice a year, where all the vendors come inside the community center? Or
Well,
is this
This show
separate?
is
we're,
annual.
Different?
a vendor can do the same show 2 times in a
Okay.
calendar year.
Okay.
We used to have once every 6 months, but now we changed it to 2 times in a calendar year.
Now, back in, just a couple weeks ago, there was an additional military collector show held at the riverfront, but it was put on by a merchant here in town.
Yeah.
Okay.
And
Yeah.
it was a 2-day event, and mine is just a 1-day
Yeah.
event.
Yes,
His,
sir, gotcha.
he could do another one in 2019.
Okay, yeah, appreciate it, yeah.
Any other questions? If not, I'll take a motion. Did you want to say anything to us?
No, I
Okay.
do appreciate your time.
Okay. Need a motion?
I'll go ahead and move that we grant a waiver of a transient merchant's permit for use of the community center for the military collectors show on February 16th, 2019.
It's not a waiver, it is a license.
Yeah, the waiver is it's the waiver of the prohibition, I guess is a little kind of a double way of putting it. The current code currently prohibits licenses on city property like this, so you are waiving the prohibition. You'd say
Not the
that he would
permit.
still be required to get a license, as he would. So you're not waiving the actual license, you're basically granting permission for it to be.
How should we?
How do you recommend we?
I would word the motion as, approve, either approval of waiving the prohibition or approve the granting of a license on this.
I move that we approve the granting of a license for the use of the community center for the military collector show on February 16, 2019.
Motion and second to approve the motion as Commissioner Griswold presented. Begin voting. Commissioner Bowder?
Aye.
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 5-0. Thank you. Thank you.
Good luck.
Good luck. Hope it's successful for you. Next item is 2018 cereal malt beverage license for the Mini Mart at 3122 South 4th.
Carla will continue with this item.
Mayor and Commissioner, this is a request for a 2018 cereal malt beverage license for the Minute Mart, and it is a 2018. They did have a change in ownership, which will go into effect, I think, this week. So because of a change in ownership, they do have to apply for a new cereal malt beverage license for the remainder of this year, and then they'll do another one for 2019.
Is that
So
the
it's any type
Conoco
of-
across from McDonald's right in that
Yes,
area?
yes, yeah. So because of the change in ownership, they are requesting an off-premise cereal malt beverage license for that location at 3122 South 4th Street.
Off-premise. Oh, that means carry out. Yeah.
Correct.
And buy your six-pack. Right. Any questions or comments?
No.
Not, I'll take a motion.
I move approval of the 2018 off-premise cereal malt beverage license for Minute Mart at 3122 South 4th, Leavenworth.
I'll second it.
Motion and second to approve the cereal malt beverage license for 3122 South 4th, the Minute Mart. Again, voting with Commissioner Griswold.
Aye.
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 Passes 5-0. Thank you. Next item is an annual housekeeping chore of canceling outstanding checks prior to 2017.
Our finance director will handle this item.
According to KSA 10-816A, any checks that remain outstanding after a period of 2 years may be canceled. We currently have 21 checks in the amount of $1,790.95 that have been outstanding for longer than 2 years. The recommendation is that the City Commission cancels those checks. If anyone still has those checks and presents them to the finance office, we will reissue.
This is just the annual housekeeping thing we do every year
Yes,
about
yes.
this time of year. Any questions or comments? Ms. Moore? Now I'll take a motion.
I'll move that we approve the cancellation of checks that remain outstanding after 2 years of issuance, and that these balances, in accordance with KSA 10-816C, revert back to the city fund upon which such checks were drawn.
I second it.
Motion and second to cancel outstanding checks prior to 2017 as presented. Begin voting. Commissioner Bowder?
Aye.
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 Passes 5-0. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next item is the 2019 through 2023 CIP Capital Improvement Program.
Mr. Mayor and Commission, at the November 6th City Commission study session, the governing body reviewed the recommended 2019 to 2023 Capital Improvements Program, otherwise known as the CIP. The Commission reviewed minor changes at the November 20th study session and gave a consensus to move forward for final approval. The CIP before you references those small changes. Again, those were in relation to the Stubby Park sign and the cost being split between the CIP and the transient guest tax. Renovation of the library restrooms, which we have moved to 2019 as recommended by the Commission last week. A spray park has been added but left unfunded, meaning we'll have a study session, some information beginning of the year to talk about that item. The Havens Park restrooms and associated improvements have been added for 2022, and Thornton Street's bond payment was moved, the first bond payment, to 2020. Everything else that was presented at the November 6th study session remains in place, and the CIP is before you now for approval, and then we will place it on the city's website. And again, everything that's in the CIP over $25,000 will come back to the Commission for approval.
Any questions or comments from the commissioners on the CIP? We've gone through. If not, I'll take a motion.
I move that we approve the 2019 through 2023 capital improvement plan.
Second.
Motion and second to approve the CIP as presented. Begin voting with Commissioner Griswold.
Aye.
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 Passes 5-0, thank you. Next item, Resolution B 2210, approving the KDHE, Kansas Department of Health and Environment loan to Leavenworth Water Works.
I'll ask Joel Minkin from the Leavenworth Water Department to come up. Mayor and Commission, from time to time, the City Commission is asked to take actions on behalf of the Leavenworth Water Department, and that is based on the structure whereby they can't own land and they can't do certain other things where the governing body must act on their behalf. This falls squarely under that. So I'll let Joel talk about what this project is, what they're doing, and then what he would like the City Commission to consider.
Okay. Back in 2015, we commissioned a study of the South well field that provides raw water into the South plant. Since it is about 40 years old, it's had degradation of the capacity over the years. It's dropping off steadily as it goes along, as it advances in age. Not an uncommon thing. The board studied the situation and determined that a horizontal collector well, a single well with enough capacity to replace the entire well field, would be the appropriate action to take. In determining what financing to use for this, we decided on a KDHE public water supply loan. Basically, it's managed through KDHE, the Kansas Department of Health and Environment. It's at a reduced interest rate because it was seed money by the federal government. They turn around and loan it out to water utilities throughout the state. Because of our unique business model, I guess you call it, the city actually owns all of the infrastructure. The board is responsible for management of that. In taking out this loan, KDHE has asked that we pass this resolution before you, that they prepared it basically. It's a repeat of the one that was done back in 2003 when we took out a $10 million loan to upgrade both treatment plants. Basically what it says is that you approve the Waterworks Board taking out the loan with KDHE, and you do not pledge your taxing authority to back up the loan. We've already obtained a permit from a bond insurer to do that for us. So that's it in a nutshell. Do you have any questions about the situation? Or?
Mr. Mangan, I just have one question. I take it your board has met and they've already approved this.
Yes.
So,
this action.
And this loan is for $6.9 million?
Yeah, that is correct. Yes.
And then the horizontal collector well project, what's the projection on when the work would begin, or more importantly, when would it be completed?
Okay, we're working on the engineering right now. Of course, we hope to have a contract a little bit later this year. Construction starting about March of next year. We've broken it into two separate contracts, so the one will follow the other with a short gap in time. Hopefully, if everything goes well, it would be April of 2020 when it would be completed. Now, most construction plans this size will take a little couple of extra months maybe, but 2020 should be ready for that soon.
And is that down by the southern?
Yes, it's actually property is referred to as Steiger Island.
Okay.
It's the flats down there.
Okay, thank you.
any other questions? Just for the new commissioners, as Mr. Kramer said, Waterworks, they're a separate entity. They're a separate body that's elected positions. For some reason, they cannot own property, and so it's held in the city's name. And the Leavenworth Waterworks is the only separate waterworks in the entire state of Kansas. Every other city, cities of the first class, Waterworks is part of the city. Just says the fire department, police department, everything else. And I think Mr. Kramer's probably glad that that it's been set up this way since 1883.
37.
Yeah.
37.
What?
37.
1937.
Before that, it was
Still
pretty
long
much
time.
handled by a privately held water company originally.
The rumors I've always heard is, when I know water department opened in 1883, I guess it went private in 37, there was I don't know, hanky-panky or all kinds of just, and the state came in and said, okay, that one's gonna be separate. Too many hands in the cookie jar. Something was going on that they did make this hybrid. That's the only one in the state of Kansas, so. I don't think you were involved with it, sir.
No.
How many people are on your board?
There are 5 members.
Five?
elected
You
each
meet
year.
monthly, or is it?
We meet twice monthly.
Okay.
How many employees do you have total?
36 full-time equivalents.
Okay. How many water main breaks over the last week?
There was one this afternoon that had a little issue. It's actually a service connection broke loose. Over the weekend, no, we didn't have any problems.
Good. Thank you. Any other questions? Then I'll take a motion.
I move that we approve Resolution B 2211, approving a loan from the Kansas Public Water Supply Loan Fund, administered by KDHE to the Leavenworth Water Works.
2210.
2210.
Okay.
I have
You're
dyslexia.
amending your motion.
I'm amending it to say B 2210.
Okay.
Thank you.
I'll second. Okay.
Motion and a second to approve Resolution B 2210. Begin voting with Commissioner Bowder.
Aye.
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 Passes 5-0. Thank you, sir. Good luck.
Thank you.
When will you get your money?
We'd still have to actually do the signature of the loan, but whenever we need it, we draw it down.
You can, okay, so you can,
It's on a drawdown basis as we go along with
okay,
construction.
so, good, thank you. Next item is supplemental agreement number 1 to the K7 corridor MOU with KDOT,
Our Public Works Director, Mike McDonald, will handle this item.
our 30-year employee.
This is an agreement that the city has entered into in 2006, along with all the other communities along the K7 corridor, essentially from Lansing to Spring Hill, as part of an effort by KDOT to bring some uniformity to thoughts and actions by all the communities on the corridor. I know that the city's focus at the time was specifically improvements north of I-70 to Lansing city limits. But the committee reviews all the activities that KDOT and the communities are doing from Spring Hill up to Lansing, and Leavenworth gets to report on our items that are inside the city limits. This was an attempt to bring some uniformity and some understanding, and it ultimately resulted in a fairly large study on how to manage the future of the corridor over time. All of the communities, I believe all of them, or almost all of them, eventually entered into a memorandum of understanding, which basically says you're going to meet periodically and discuss the issues, and those agreements have essentially all expired. I think there's a few communities that did not have one that had an expiration date on them. The city's agreement at the time did. KDOT is seeking to kind of reinvigorate the corridor group, and is asking for those communities that are interested in participating to enter into a memorandum of understanding. It's exactly the same as the original one, other than they've changed the expiration date, in our case, a series of 5-year renewals out to like 2032 or something. There is, should be stated, KDOT says there is no money for any major improvements on K7 between I-70 and Lansing, although individual projects that have merit will be considered in due course of time. I believe the county has an MOU that was one of the ones that did not have an expiration date, and according to their representatives this afternoon, that they were not planning to do anything other than continue with the agreement.
And one thing to note, I know that you briefed us on an R-cut intersection at the old Victory Junction, or was it Leavenworth Road? Yeah, the old, what we called, name was called Victory Junction. And members of the UG, or possibly a member of the UG, has come out against that. They want to be able to cross there. And as you can see in point number 6 of your policy report, Unified Government, which is the KCK Commission, they are asking for considering additional signals and reduced speed limits along K7. You know, right now, you can count them between 4th and 4H Road and the Turnpike. I think there's 8 lights or 8 stops. A little more than 20 years ago, there was none. Then they just keep piling on. 65-mile-an-hour speed limit, but very seldom are you going to hit all the lights properly. And it hurts us quite a bit when new businesses are trying to come. How long does it take to get to the interstate? We can say it's 8.5 miles from the southern tip of the city. It's 65 miles an hour, but when you have 8 stoplights, it's not 8.5 minutes by any means. And we're hoping that the KDOT has not agreed to this at this time, but I don't know how much clout the Unified Government of Kansas City, Kansas has as opposed to us. But as we talk to our legislators and anyone else talks to them, this is very important for the growth of Leavenworth and Leavenworth County.
Was this to prevent the wrecks that were taking place right there on Parallel, or
what, the R-cut or
at the Victory Junction?
The R-cut, remember he brought that up. That was to make traffic flow much faster, and then the R-cut is for safety. There's a lot of action still at Victory Junction. People fly through, you know, they jump out and make a right turn, you know, with the light, and cars are flying down. But the rumor is that one commissioner of the Unified Government lives on the west side of K7, crosses Parallel every day, and he or she doesn't want to turn right and go up 300 yards and come back. They want a straight shot across. So,
with respect to what happens at that intersection, is it KDOT the ultimate decision maker, or?
I would say KDOT's the ultimate decision maker, but KDOT is not immune to pressure from.
Especially this is Kansas City, Kansas property, so that's.
Well, yeah, it's within the jurisdiction of KDOT.
Runs into Leavenworth, yeah.
But it is a state road.
It's a state highway, and their rules, their processes are required to be followed by anybody that wants to do anything on there. But it's worth noting that KDOT's decision makers are entirely reachable by the public and elected officials to bring out their concerns.
We need to be at the table, definitely.
And the original master plan on K7 was had frontage roads. It was going to be, I don't want to say an expressway, but a straight shot down. Am I correct in that?
Right. It was a little fuzzy, but there was a series of additional interchanges and frontage roads to essentially be a freeway type environment, much like what you see in Shawnee. KDOT has no funds for that to construct anything like that. They do have funds for the R-cut intersections to improve the safety, improves the traffic through flow, and it's safer, reduces severity of accidents.
KDOT funds got robbed quite a bit over the last 7-8 years, and so we get stuck with more stoplights. They're cheaper than putting in the master plan as originally was agreed upon, which is detrimental to the city of Leavenworth.
Absolutely.
In terms of the K7 Corridor Management Committee, do you and the city manager sit on that committee, or?
I generally go to the meetings. Right. If there's anything controversial coming up, city manager and I will talk about it. He has come to some meetings, but I try to go to all of the meetings.
How often are the meetings?
Right now they're quarterly. Back when they did the original corridor study, I think it was every other month. And there was a time I think it was every month to review the information as it was coming in. But right now it's quarterly.
Another question I had, on one of your points you talked about Olathe has removed themselves from the MOU. Just very briefly, could you discuss that, and are there implications for our city? Or
there's no real implication to the city, but it's showing how things can change when you least expect it. The short version is, for many years, Olathe had promoted, they have K7 is what turns into, I think, Parker Avenue as you go straight, straight south. And then you get on the old highway and you make a jog to the east for a mile or so, and then you turn and get on K7 to go south. Olathe for many years promoted that should be an improved corridor, much like I would say a freeway or an expressway of some sort. as their growth continued, the pressures within Olathe grew such that they said, you know, we don't really want to do that. We have all this very valuable high dollar property, and that is no longer the vision that we have. So they basically petitioned KDOT to realign the route. The road, Parker Avenue is still going to be there, but if you're following the signs, you're going to, if you're driving south on K7, you'll get to K10, and then you'll go east to I-35, and then you'll come back on I-35 to K7 and go south, which is caused some consternation with KDOT and the other communities on K7, but that is how things change. As things change, programs change.
And they haven't made any changes in the signs apparently, right?
Not yet, but they're
nice if
probably
they
in the
would.
next year or so.
Okay.
Any other questions for Mr. McDonald? Not, I'll take a motion.
I move that the commission approve the supplemental agreement number 1 for the K7 MOU.
I'll second it.
Motion and second to approve supplemental agreement 1 of K7 corridor MOU with KDOT. To get voted, Commissioner Griswold.
Aye.
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 Passes 5-0. Thank you, Mr. McDonald. Next two items are consensus items. First one is first consideration ordinance amending section 54-134 of the food service school. And I think we have the fire chief. Is it fire chief or Mr. Kramer? You take it.
Our city clerk will start.
Okay.
Mayor and Commissioner, this one is an amendment to section 54-134, food service school, food handling permits. Currently, the city provides food handling classes that's conducted by the city health officer the first Wednesday of every month at fire station number 1. The cost to participate in that is $10. The city also contracts with an online provider to offer a food safety class as well. That costs $20 for somebody to attend that one. Over the past couple of years, the number of in-class participants compared to the number of participants for online classes have significantly decreased. In 2017, there were 64 participants in the in-class school conducted by the city health officer compared to 167 who took the online class. In 2018, there have been 27 that participated in the in-school class and 222 that took the online class. So staff has been watching this over the last couple of years. There are some nights the class has maybe one person in it, and it just has become not really cost effective to do that, or So we talked about it and thought that it might be a good option to discontinue that and just to provide the online class. I did write into the ordinance that if there was some circumstance where somebody did want an in-class class, that we would consider that, and we could still do that. A situation might be a new restaurant opens up, they've got a lot of employees or something, they want us to come and do a class or have a special class for all of their new employees, and we certainly would do that if that was the case.
Questions? Just, let's say I'm a new employee at McDonald's. I start today. Can I work a period of time before I get my food handler certificate, or must I have that before I start?
The way it works right now, if they can go online and get their, take the online class and get their permit immediately. If they sign up for the in-class class that we do, they come in, they pay their $10, we give them a certificate that allows them to start working.
Okay.
To allow them to start working before they take the class, and then it expires within a week after taking the class. If for some reason they don't take it, then it expires out.
And how long is the food handler certificate good for?
Lifetime.
See, I told you, I worked at a Pizza Hut 50 years ago, and I had to do it. I don't know where that license is, but I know I've got it.
I probably have a copy that we can give you for $1.
And the chief, fire chief, no, he doesn't teach it, but one of his firefighters is in charge of teaching that.
Correct.
Okay. You okay with this, chief?
You bet.
Okay, any other questions for the chief or the city clerk? Not, do we have a consensus to move this forward?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, very good. Next item, first consideration ordinance amending chapter 25, article 3, chapter 26, I'm sorry, on massage regulations, massage therapy licensing or whatever it is.
This item has been before the City Commission a couple times in the last couple of months. On October 2nd was a study session and discussed some changes to the amendment. In October 23rd, regular meeting, we began some discussion and then tabled it for a special study session on November 14th. Members of the massage establishment and massage therapists community within the city attended and provided input to the City Commission to help with the amendments to the ordinance. Everything that was discussed, we've reflected in the revised ordinance that's in front of you. There were a couple things, after talking with the third-party vendor who will perform our background checks, it was suggested that rather than a 10-year background check, we just do a 7-year check, because a lot of violations fall off after 7 years, so that additional 3 years is really, you're not really getting much of a check there anyway. So I did go ahead and make that change, and then there was just some minor wording changes that the third-party vendor also suggested we make, just so that we could, so that the person authorizes us to do the background check. And Mr. Waters looked at that wording also, and we made those changes also. The commission also agreed by consensus to reduce the fee for new massage establishments. They're currently $350 for a new establishment, and that will go down to $300. And then the fee for renewals of the establishment, currently $175, will go down to $150. And those will come back in the next meeting or so for to approve the ordinance with Appendix F for those fees.
Okay.
If you have any questions on anything in here?
Questions or comments for Ms. Williamson?
No.
I'd like to add that we did have a special study session with, for this particular subject, November 14th. It's attended by a dozen and a half massage therapists, and it was a good session. That's all we concentrated on. I think we came to an agreement that I don't think it's a stretch, but everyone is satisfied. We're able to take in a lot of considerations, and I think we have a better program now. Do we have a consensus to move this forward? I'm sorry, Mr.
Yeah, I was
Waters.
just going to add the one other thing that we'll have to follow up on at one point is updating the development regulations as well to allow the special use permit for the
Okay.
massage. So that'll be another follow-up item that'll come separate from this.
Okay.
That's for the home
Yes.
masseuse that has a home business, right?
Yes, sir.
Right, okay.
Do we have a consensus to move this forward?
Yes.
We do. Thank you. Next item is consent agenda.
Yes, relatively low number of checks on this particular report, and the only thing I would say is that the biggest check in terms of the amount was to J. Oliver Construction LLC, who put in the new playground equipment at Cody Park, and so that's just a FYI. I will make a motion that we approve claims for November 10th, 2018 through November 23rd, 2018 in the amount of $258,094.12. Net amount for payroll number 24 effective November 23rd, 2018 in the amount of $350,078.50, including police and fire pension of $11,572.36.
I second it.
Motion and second to accept the consent agenda as presented. Begin voting with Commissioner Bowder.
Aye.
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 Passes 5-0. Discussion among commissioners. Anyone? Commissioner Griswold?
No.
Commissioner Wilson? Commissioner Dedeky?
No.
Well, I just came back, and after all of this terrible storm, you guys did a great job on the streets, I have to say. Very nice.
I'd
Very
like
good.
to
Very
echo
good.
Commissioner Bowder's comments. Our street department, our contractors, everybody went out full force. I think it started at 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning on, was it Saturday night?
Sunday morning.
Saturday night, Sunday morning. And crews working with 12-hour shifts?
Yes.
And how many people, how many city employees, how many contractors approximately?
We probably typically have on duty in one manner, shape, or form about 7 or 8 city employees per shift. Some are mechanics and some are at work driving the snow vehicles. And we had 2 contractors that did the residential streets, as well as 2 city employees that followed in behind them to verify that we got all the streets. And they're hopefully finishing up tonight on a few loose ends.
Yeah. Good. Well, please pass on our thanks to the snow boss, Mr. Barks, and
Former city clerk.
and all of his staff and what he's done. Mr. Kramer, do you have anything? Mr. Waters, Ms. Williamson? If not, I'll take a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye.